So, hello everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm Dr. Maureen Boyle, and surrounding me today are actively practicing physicians who see patients on a daily basis. We are your doctors. We have been contacted by physicians from around the state who have asked us that we represent them today. And we are united in our grave concern and overwhelming opposition to LB 626, which bans abortion at 6 weeks. I also want to make it clear that the opinions stated today represent our personal views and not that of our employers. To get things started, I would like to introduce Dr. Mary Kenyon.
Good afternoon and welcome. We are the Nebraska Alliance for Physician Advocacy. My name is Mary Kenyon. I am a practicing OBGYN in Omaha, and I was born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska. Additionally, I'm a mother to a busy toddler and 31 weeks pregnant with my second child. It is with professional and personal experience with pregnancy that I say Legislative Bill 626 is dangerous for pregnant people and medically irresponsible. Today marks the 50th anniversary of the Roe v. Wade decision, which made abortion safe and legal in this country up until just a few months ago. Importantly, this decision provided women with the privacy and the autonomy to make their own decisions with the guidance of their trusted healthcare providers. Rates of death and injury from unsafe abortions plummeted after this ruling. In a time where there is a maternal health crisis in this country, and particularly for our Black birthing people, we as the experts in obstetrics and gynecology feared the significant repercussions restrictive abortion laws like Legislative Bill 626 would have in Nebraska. As seen in Texas, a 6-week abortion ban will make maternal morbidity and mortality worse when you put such limits on abortion care. Medical decision-making around termination of pregnancy is deeply personal and should be nuanced in a private conversation between a patient and their healthcare provider. Bills like this bring politicians into the exam room, and they are attempting to exert expertise and medical decision-making skills that they simply do not have. Many women, particularly those with irregular cycles or those with contraception failures, will not know that they are pregnant by the time fetal cardiac activity occurs between 5 and 6 weeks gestation. Additionally, most people don't have a prenatal care appointment with their healthcare provider until at least 8 weeks. So essentially, a 6-week abortion ban is a total abortion ban, and it's against the standard of care. Legislative Bill 626 calls for exceptions for medical emergencies, which is vague and very much open to interpretation. Pregnancy is not a health-neutral state, and even the most seemingly uncomplicated individuals can suffer unpredictable health complications. One example of this is when a patient's water breaks prior to fetal viability. This can have devastating neonatal outcomes, and many infants do not make it to viability. Additionally, pregnant women can suffer devastating infections. So I ask you, how close to death do we allow pregnant people to become before we perform a life-saving abortion? What about this patient's other children? Delays in abortion for cases like this can lead to sepsis, hemorrhage, need for hysterectomy, and death. That doesn't sound very pro-life to me. Legislative Bill 626 can't possibly account for the complicated medical decision-making that goes into these crucial cases. Patients will have delays in care because doctors will fear their license if they act. Physicians who are afraid to provide the standard of care for fear of legal repercussions won't want to practice in this state. If you have never had to make crucial life-saving decisions or perform technically difficult surgeries on critically ill patients, it is irresponsible to try to make laws restricting the ability of physicians to do so. While the law also tries to provide provisions for ectopic pregnancies and miscarriages, it grossly misses the mark. Legislative Bill 626 states that it only pertains to intrauterine pregnancies and doesn't apply to ectopic pregnancies. However, some of the most dangerous ectopic pregnancies can also be within the uterus, including interstitial pregnancies and C-section scar ectopic pregnancies. Diagnosing and managing these pregnancies is incredibly complicated. This further demonstrates the total lack of medical knowledge that goes into writing such restrictive and dangerous bills. I am reassured that the lawmakers have thought about exceptions for rape and incest. With introduction of this bill, however, how far must we go to prove that this pregnancy was, in fact, the result of these crimes? 2/3 of women who have suffered a rape do not report the crime for fear of retaliation by their abuser. Additionally, it's incredibly traumatic for survivors of rape to go through the legal system to prove that they were in fact violated. How do we counsel the woman crying in our office who doesn't want to continue the pregnancy but fears for her safety if she reports her assault? This is not a black and white issue. There are many shades of gray that go into a decision to terminate a pregnancy. I trust my patients to make informed decisions that are right for them. I trust my colleagues to uphold the standard of care and provide necessary medical treatment for women and birthing people. We are the experts, and we do not need legislators in our exam rooms dictating the care of our patients. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Rebecca Anderson. I have been born and raised in Nebraska and am a fourth-year medical student pursuing a career in obstetrics and gynecology. My opinions are my own. I entered medicine to provide comfort, knowledge, and high-quality, immediate health care to patients during some of the most intimate and vulnerable moments of their lives. On my first day of medical school, I took the Hippocratic Oath to first do no harm. My medical education amplified my passion for obstetrics and gynecology and fueled my drive to provide unbiased, empathetic, and compassionate care for women. Following the Dobbs decision that resulted in the overturn of Roe v. Wade last year, the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology issued statements such as the following, and I quote, "While people may have differing views, those views must not interfere with the relationship between people and their doctors. Therefore, people should be able to access the health care that they need without medically unnecessary barriers or restrictions. And doctors should be able to offer that care without interference or fear of being criminalized or otherwise punished," end quote. Currently in states with restrictions, life or death decisions are being deferred to hospital lawyers rather than the patient and physician, delaying the provision of high quality or even life-saving care to patients. Additionally, the American Medical Association, the largest association of physicians, which includes individuals of all medical specialties, adopted a policy in June of 2022 to recognize that healthcare, including reproductive health services like contraception and abortion, is a human right. As a future obstetrician and gynecologist, I will be expected to have the skills to empty the uterus for any reason, but especially for emergencies. The Accreditation Council for Graduate Medical Education has revised requirements to clarify that access to abortion education and clinical training is essential for physicians specializing in obstetrics and gynecology, and that simulation exercises are not a substitute for hands-on education. As a result, residents training in restricted states must travel to states without restrictions for a portion of their education. It has been predicted that medical students who are pursuing obstetrics and gynecology will seek training programs located in areas where there are fewer restrictions, and leading them to choose to train in coast states where abortion is accessible. Since the location of residency strongly correlates with the location of practice, the restricted states may soon find themselves with an inadequate number of practicing obstetricians and gynecologists. Therefore, if LB 626 were to pass, Nebraska could find itself in such a situation. It is most important to remember that all Nebraskans need and deserve unimpeded access to all medical care. The American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology emphasizes the consequences of reproductive restrictions with the following statement, and I quote, "Systemic inequities in the healthcare system and in society mean that Black communities, other communities of color, and people with low incomes struggle to access comprehensive reproductive health care, including contraception and abortion. Being unable to obtain an abortion has major effects on people's lives, health, and well-being, and when access to reproductive health care is restricted, these communities experience those effects most profoundly. All people should be able to access the health care that they need, and obstetricians, gynecologists must be able to offer care without restrictions that further widen the healthcare gap and disparities in health outcomes." End quote. We must defeat LB 626 for the health and safety of our patients. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Neil Hamel, and I'm a maternal fetal medicine specialist, which means I spend all of my time treating patients with complex pregnancies. Termination conversations happen every day in my practice. I don't like to talk about them, and patients certainly don't want to be in a position that they would need to hear about this option, as the vast majority of pregnancies are desired. But these situations are part of normal human reproduction, and we can't avoid them. Today, I'm speaking out against LB 626, Nebraska's heartbeat bill. This legislation attempts to carve out exemptions, but medicine is not that straightforward. I'd like to speak specifically about the medical emergency exemption, which allows for termination when delay in termination will create a serious risk of substantial and irreversible physical impairment. Medically speaking, this completely misses the mark. Let me give you an example. One of the birth defects we look for is anencephaly. This is a lethal birth defect in which a fetus does not have a brain. Many of our mothers have medical complications of pregnancy. Diabetes and hypertension are common in Nebraska. And these dramatically raise a pregnant mother's risk for blood clots, stroke, and death. This bill would have a mother carry a pregnancy where a lethal outcome is guaranteed while we wait for her to have a blood clot, stroke, or die. Medicine is complex, and patient situations are different. It is crazy for us to think that people could write exemptions that cover the full breadth and scope of medicine, let alone obstetrics. This approach ignores the basic biology at work. It ignores the principle of patient autonomy. It ignores the hours of detailed conversation that are involved between a patient and her physician in making the most difficult decision a patient may ever be faced with. It is also worth noting that our state has been struggling to attract and retain bright and talented healthcare providers. It's already challenging to find healthcare in our rural communities. Restrictive legislation just digs our hole deeper. The healthcare providers you see before you are here today to say clearly, with one voice, that Nebraskans should not tolerate this bill, or any other bill for that matter, that interferes with the relationship between a provider and a patient. Government has no place in your exam rooms when you are grappling with the hardest decision of your life. My message, our message, to our state representatives, say no to LB 626. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Asit Goswami. I'm a hospitalist physician, and I'm so proud to be standing here with all my fellow healthcare workers in Nebraska on the 50th anniversary of Roe to come together and send a message to our state lawmakers that we will not stand by quietly as they seek to ban an incredibly safe and common medical procedure, as as they seek to impose government control over women's bodies and choices, as they seek to restrict the training and education of new physicians, and as their consequences of their actions lead to worsening rates of maternal mortality, especially for Black, Latino, and Native American women. I work as a hospitalist physician, seeing people of all walks of life at their most vulnerable time in their life. I've trained for years to see the humanity of people in front of me. The politicians who support abortion bans, they tell our patients that their values don't matter. Their preferences don't matter. Their concerns about their own health don't matter. These politicians believe our patients can't be trusted to make the best healthcare decisions for themselves, that they're not worthy of being able to make these choices. Unlike the people who pass abortion bans, we actually have to face those who are harmed. This law will spread fear and anxiety in our physician and healthcare teams to walk the line between patient care and avoiding losing their license. This law will force physicians to violate our conscience and our training to turn away patients who need us at their most vulnerable time. All of us here are trained to take care of patients. We've trained many, many years in order to do this. It takes a lot of time and skill to be able to make these really critical decisions and to take into account that every patient is different and every clinical decision is tailored to what their goals are and what they need and what their family wants and what they want. And our goal is to listen to them, and there is no role for politicians to be involved in that decision. There's nothing more inhuman, cruel, or unethical than having to deny people the essential health care they seek in their time of need. There are a number of unintended consequences that will come about if this law passes. The impact this legislation could have on training is huge. The next generations of physicians in Nebraska may not be adequately trained to care for miscarriage, for abortion, for complications of pregnancy that arise in mid-trimester. This is a grave concern for a state that already has challenges attracting top talent across the nation. Medical residents who want to train and have skills to provide comprehensive OBGYN care this includes safe and effective abortion care. Pregnancy can be beautiful, so wonderful if everything goes well. It's also a time in a person's life when they can face significant health risks. For people who have an unwanted pregnancy, abortion can be a much safer option. When we take away the right to safe and legal abortion, that doesn't take away abortion itself. It just means people try to access abortion through means that are less safe. Let us all be clear on who this law will impact the most. Our most vulnerable populations of Black women, Latino women, Native Americans, poor, and rural. Due to a combination of factors, women of color are disproportionately more likely to need an abortion. They already face high rates of maternal mortality. The law will see more Black and brown women die as we see these women denied a safe and legal option for health care and take the risk of getting an illegal abortion or suffer the mental health repercussions of carrying an unwanted pregnancy to term. I stand before you alongside my fellow healthcare professionals, feeling empowered on the 50th anniversary of Roe, because we also stand with the American Academy of Family Physicians, we stand with the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, we stand with the American College of Physicians, and the American Medical Associations, who calls these bans an egregious government intrusion into the medical examination room, a direct attack on the practice of medicine and the patient-physician relationship, and a brazen violation of patients' right to evidence-based health care. We stand with people across the nation who are marching today against government control over women's bodies. Thank you.
Hello, My name is Tyne Olivia Tyson, and I am a fourth-year medical student. I plan on graduating this spring, and I'm hoping to match into OBGYN for residency. My colleagues have spoken eloquently about the moral and medical implications of this bill, and I want to speak about it as someone who came to Nebraska to get an education. I was raised in North Carolina, but I've lived in Omaha for the past 4 years. Today, we need to talk about proposed legislative bill 626 and its effect on young professionals who want to move to Nebraska or come to Nebraska for an education. I had never been to Nebraska before my interview for medical school. I had no idea what to expect. When I moved here in 2019, I found Nebraska to be beautiful. I found the people friendly and welcoming, and I loved the lower cost of living. I imagined a future for myself in the state where I could open my own medical practice. The new laws this legislature have proposed, however, make it hard for me to imagine a future in Nebraska. Legislative Bill 626 threatens any physician who performs what could be even perceived as an abortion with the loss of their medical license. Loss of a license is an enormous consequence, and many people don't understand how severe it is. Becoming a doctor takes almost a decade of education and the investment of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Medical students are willing to shoulder these burdens because we know we will be able to earn the money back once we become physicians. It's supposed to be a short-term sacrifice for a long-term, stable career. A law which threatens to revoke our license is simply too high a risk. If I lose my license, I am stuck with a $250,000 bill for medical school and no way to earn that money back. I'm not taking that risk, and I doubt any of my classmates will either. I've studied for years to become a physician and invested a huge amount of time and money to achieve this goal. Now, I'm finally at the finish line and finally about to have a taxable income. Why would I stay in a state that threatens to take that all away from me? All I want to do is my job, providing my patients with the care they deserve. I'm certainly not the only physician who feels this way. Nebraska has the opportunity to bring talented young professionals into the state. We have top schools that attract bright young minds from all over the country. But these students won't stay in a state where they feel they cannot thrive. Soon enough, they'll stop coming at all. You don't attract young talent with laws like these. In addition, like most professional students, I've put off marriage and children while I focus on my education. As I'm finishing school and starting my career, I hope to start building a family, and I don't want to do it in a state where I couldn't receive life-saving care in the event of a pregnancy complication, or choose to terminate a pregnancy that would be incompatible with life. I'm not alone in this. Young professionals like me care a lot about fertility and family planning. That's why Fortune 500 companies such as Tesla and American Express offer tens of thousands of dollars in fertility benefits to attract the most accomplished workers. They understand that this is an issue at the forefront of people's minds. People my age simply don't want to live in a state that puts limits on how they choose to build a family. Big companies know this, and if they know if they base themselves in Nebraska, they'll have to say goodbye to the workforce they want to recruit. Legislative Bill 626 will drive away young professionals like myself. People building businesses in their 20s and 30s don't want to live in a state that puts limits on their reproductive choice or their partner's reproductive choice. If you want to retain and attract people who will build Nebraska's economy and care for its population, please do not support Legislative Bill 626. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Jody Hedrick. I have practiced obstetrics and gynecology in Nebraska for over 20 years. I'm a wife, I'm a mother. I'm here to discuss facts and not beliefs. The objective of my statement is to inform you of the economic impact LB 626 will have on Nebraskans. This is based on scientific data from states who have implemented restrictive abortion laws, information collected by the federal government and other organizations. Discussing money in medical care can be a tough pill to swallow. No one wants to talk about the impacts of restricting reproductive choice in our society. It is a conversation that has to happen. What is economics anyway? It is a word that is frequently used, but do we really know what it means and how it applies to us? Economics is the science of scarcity. Economics is the allocation of limited resources to unlimited wants. Economics is about making choices. So what happens when an abortion becomes scarce from restrictive laws? What is the net effect of the welfare of its citizens? 1 in 4 women will have an abortion in the United States. The top reasons why women seek abortion are financial, material concerns and timing, educational, and the impact on their livelihood. The Institute of Women's Policy and Research reports that restrictive abortion laws ultimately cost states and local economies $105 billion annually. This loss is a result of the reduction in the labor force participation, decreasing earning levels due to increased time off, and increased job turnover in women ages 15 to 44. One of the best longitudinal studies on the financial impact of abortion is the Turnaway study. It looked at 1,000 women seeking an abortion in 30 clinics in 21 states. 383 women were in the near limit group. Near limit was defined as women who were up to 2 weeks under the facility's gestational limit and had an abortion. 180 women were in the turnaway group, as they were outside the gestational limit set by that state and were seeking a termination but denied an abortion. In the group denied abortions, there was a 78% increase in women who were past due in debt, an 81% increase in bankruptcy, evictions, court judgments. They were 3 times higher in their unemployment rate and 4 times more likely to fall below the federal poverty level. How does this information apply to Nebraska economy should a more restrictive bill become a law? Currently, Nebraska has the highest out-of-pocket expenses for childbirth according to Healthcare Cost Institute. This is 41% higher than the national average. This medical expense negatively impacts Nebraskans. A more restrictive abortion law would further increase this high financial burden on more Nebraska families. Studies show that women who give birth to an unwanted pregnancy will have an increase in financial burden and distress not only during their pregnancy, but for the additional 3 years following birth. They experience an increase in mental health disorders, poor physical well-being and death, and an increased risk of physical violence by their male partners. Restrictive abortion laws increase the unemployment rate and the risk of incarceration, which ultimately affects every Nebraskan. Texas saw a $14.5 billion economic loss since voting a strict anti-abortion bill into law. Economic projections indicate that should Texas lift their ban, they will see an increase in 82,000 women between the ages of 15 to 44 entering the workforce. Given the example of Texas, imagine the economic impact Nebraska should see if the legislature votes LB 626 into law. The economics of abortion are about your access to care, your ability to choose, and your financial freedom. Nebraskans will experience a negative economic impact should Legislative Bill 626 or any further restrictive abortion bill become law. In conclusion, we stand strongly against Legislative Bill 626 and encourage all Nebraskan citizens to voice their own opposition to this bill. They can talk to their state senators or to the governor. Tell them to do the right thing for Nebraska. do the right thing for Nebraska's economy, do the right thing for Nebraska's social economic health, do the right thing for women's mental and physical health, do the right thing by protecting the rights and privacy of its citizens, do the right thing and keep the government out of an individual's choice for healthcare decisions. Tell them to protect the good life here in Nebraska. Tell them to vote against Bill 626. Tell them to vote against any bill that restricts an individual's choice and access to their healthcare decisions. Thank you.
Right. And then to close, I want to make it clear that we take this position not to take a side, but to truly represent what the person in our exam room is asking for. They want healthcare decisions kept between us and them and no one else. And they want us to use all of our knowledge, all of our resources to help them make the decisions that are best for them. The decision to have an abortion is never an easy one. And there are many folks who are pro-life who have chosen to have one based on the circumstances they may find themselves in. So I stress, this is not to take sides. This is for patient care. So Nebraska has a shortage of obstetricians in rural areas. I assume the number of pregnancies will increase in those areas, and not all pregnancies are easy. Women suffer strokes, seizures, hemorrhage, sometimes need hysterectomies at a time of C-section due to uncontrolled bleeding. And women die. So women who have young children, this is a fact. Look at the data in those states which have already banned abortion. So to the legislators who signed on to support LB 626, I want you to understand your vote for this bill will destroy a family. And as doctors in the trenches, we are advocating for our patients and can't sit quietly and let that happen. So with that, I want to thank you all for coming and open it up to questions.
Commissioner Boyle,
I love that.
doesn't 626 basically fall under the level of elections have consequences? Maybe this discussion should have been held 6 months ago before the election?
Yeah, we've been working to try to do that, but when you think about abortion, abortion affects a very small number of people. And I think when you look at what really came to light in this election was that people worry about gas prices and property taxes. Well, a lot of those folks will never have to worry about a pregnancy. So when you talk about what people were concerned about in this election, abortion was on the list, but it wasn't the priority. And that's what happened. So yes, I would agree that it's a consequence of elections, but we have to do, we've been working hard to try to pass, to make the abortion issue more well known. I think only now is it coming to light. I think the other thing to consider is, as physicians, we are used to practicing medicine, and we were taught in medical school when I was going 20 years ago, you're really supposed to keep your personal/political decision, you're supposed to keep your personal and political decisions to yourself because you don't want to alienate patients. But what we're finding now is it's impacting the way we're able to take care of our patients, and that's not what they want from us. And on an important issue like this, if we as physicians are not the ones standing up for this and defending them, who will?
Some discussion was made about the economic impacts. There's a companion piece of legislation with 626 and 606 to provide some type of financial resources to the emergency pregnancy services. Does that work for you?
No.
Why not?
The emergency pregnancy services often have ulterior motives. To be honest, they often have religious motives. What we're trying to do is say we really need to get folks in with their doctors. So there are not physicians involved in those organizations. They're not physicians' offices. Anyone else?
You spoke a little bit about the issues with this becoming such a highly politicized issue. I was hoping maybe you could expand a bit on why it's so important for us to look at this issue through a lens of public health.
Public health. I think one of the biggest things to think about is when you look at maternal mortality rates and how high they are in those populations which have decreased access to care. Or to be honest with you, it's a lot of folks who come into our offices, and I'm an OB doctor, sometimes come in late because they don't have insurance. And so public health, what we find is that maternal mortality rates, preterm delivery rates, all increase in people who have not received adequate prenatal care. We can diagnose things at earlier ages. We can counsel women and give them better, we can diagnose things like diabetes, for example, or hypertension, and those are where a lot of morbidity and mortality come in. So this is truly a public health issue, and I think that I encourage the state and the county. I know there's all kinds of information to try to get more data collection on reasons why fetuses and mothers die, but we need to really hone in on those efforts even further.
Is there a reason Dr. Carhart's not here?
I don't think he's in the state anymore.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
but don't quote me on that, please.
understand.
Yeah. Does anyone else want to make a comment at all, or
A round of applause for Dr. Carhart.
all right? Well, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you.
You'll hear more from us, I'm sure.
Do you have an extra?